Hi guys, it's Terry, and this is the video that I told you that I was going to make about being candid about my depression. And it's pretty, I don't know, serendipitous, coincidental, ironic, whatever, that I am dealing right now with some depression. And I don't know what kind of episode this is going to be. Some of them are not too bad. Some of them are pretty hardcore. The last hardcore one that I had was in 2014, and it was pretty bad. It was probably one of the worst ones I've ever had. So I was probably suffering with depression in high school, but I just didn't know it at the time. I was extraordinarily driven. I felt like I needed to be the best at everything, and if I wasn't the best at everything, I felt like I was just an abject failure. And if I didn't do well, then it was because I wasn't good enough, or I had some sort of internal issue going on in me. And I think that was probably the root of the depression, that and some serious genetic things going on. My dad suffered from depression, and probably his mom, among a host of other things. So there is a genetic part of that, and that probably comes into play. Anyway, I first was put on an antidepressant when I went to the hospital for my eating disorder. And that was probably a good thing. That probably saved my life, to be honest. Depression is very commonly comorbid with eating disorders. And in fact, it's almost a given. So I was put on an antidepressant, and that worked for a pretty good while. My eating disorder was still completely out of control. But my first major depressive episode happened in 1994, I think. No, 93. 1993. I was working at a group home in Middlesex, which is a town outside of, what's between Raleigh and Wilson in North Carolina. I don't know that helps you any. That's just a point of reference. And I had an extremely stressful job. I also had an extremely stressful situation going on in my personal life. And the two really good friends that I had moved away. Now, they had a good reason for moving away, and I certainly do not, I'm glad that they moved, because they needed to follow their dream, and they did, and they're successful now, and I'm very happy for them for that. But it kind of left me with no one to talk to and a lot of issues going on. And I just remember feeling very alone and very desperate, and wondering if just life might be better if I wasn't there. And I made a very half-hearted attempt with a razor, and it did not, seriously, it was very half-hearted. I think I was more akin to cutting than it was an attempt. And I realized then that things were pretty bad. And not long after that, my sister developed multiple sclerosis, was struck with multiple sclerosis, and I went back home. And going back home probably saved my life. So for a while, I did very well. I got married and had a beautiful daughter, and things were going pretty well. And my husband and I moved to Hickory because he took a job in that area. And in 2007, it hit again. And basically what happened was my medication was not working, had stopped working. I needed to change. And it's very insidious how it works. As Casting Crowns would say, it's a slow fade. just little things start happening that you begin to realize, like, you don't want to go anywhere. You don't want to shower. You don't want to, there's just so many things that you don't want to do. Everything seems Herculean. And I began to be that way. And it didn't help that I had taken a job at a Sylvan in Hickory, which I thought was going to be a piece of cake because I'd worked at Sylvan for 13, 14 years in Kingsport. And it was not a piece of cake. I was set up for failure. I was given a little over 6 weeks to set up a reading program in a bunch of different counties and hire teachers and train them for that program. And that was just an exercise in futility. That was not going to happen. I don't know what the director of my center in Hickory was thinking. I wonder if there were some drugs involved. Kidding. Please don't sue me. I don't even remember the guy's name. But that and the medication not working and just a whole host of other things going on caused a major crash, and it happened before I even knew it. I couldn't get out of bed. Bill had to go quit my job for me because I literally could not get out of bed and go turn in my resignation or tell him I was quitting. I just felt absolutely trapped, absolutely worthless, useless. Why was I even here? I gave serious thought to not being here. It was just so not me. I didn't care if I failed, and that's when I know something's desperately wrong, is if I don't care if I fail, if I don't care about anything. I went to the doctor, and the doctor put me on a new medication, and in about 3 weeks later, I was beginning to feel better, but so much had fallen apart at that point that we just moved back to Tennessee because there was just too much going on in Hickory that reminded me of how bad things had gotten. And my husband, as always, was super supportive. He is another reason I'm probably still here, because he is so incredibly supportive. The next major episode, and it's weird because I will go years between episodes. That's why it's a major depressive disorder as opposed to a chronic thing. I am not depressed all the time, but when I am, buddy, I make up for the time I wasn't. So in 2014, I was about 2/3 of the way through grad school. My mother was terminally ill. We knew that her health was declining. And I was helping to take care of her. My sister was helping to take care of her. And my daughter, who is autistic and has severe thought-based OCD, I was trying to help her. And the grad school that I was in was an accelerated grad school in that a semester's worth of work was done in 8 weeks. And I was up to that point, I had gone year-round. I had not taken any breaks except for what they gave you in between semesters, which was sometimes a big whopping 2 days. So things were very hectic, and I was very tired, and I crashed hard. And even though I had learned some of the signs by then, it was difficult for me to tell whether I was tired because I was working at grad school or if I was tired because of the depression. And so, like I said, when it went downhill seriously. I had to quit school for that semester. Probably one of the best things I could have ever done. I did not know how tired I was until I quit. I went to see a psychiatric nurse, and she did the Beck Depressive Inventory, which is a standard kind of a screening for depression. I was 1 point away from her putting me in the hospital. And she said, I really ought to put you in the hospital. I'm like, you cannot put me in the hospital. There's I have way too many responsibilities for that. So instead, she compromised with me that I would come and check in with her, and she started me on a new medication. And between taking time off from school and that medication, things began to get better. But I was as close as I've ever been to leaving this mortal coil at that point. I had thoughts of wanting to die. I had thoughts about how I would do that. I did not necessarily have a plan that I was going to put into action, but I was giving it way more thought than it needed, and it was looking more and more appealing to me. And the only thing that was keeping me from doing it was that I could not leave Chelsea. Bill would have gone on without me. He's a strong guy, but I could not leave Chelsea. I just couldn't. And when I began to think that even she would be better off without me was when I knew things were getting really bad. And so we tried a different medication, and it worked, and taking time off from school worked. It's difficult to describe what a major depressive episode feels like. It's like being in a perpetual rainstorm. Everything is cloudy, everything is dark, you're exhausted. You don't want to leave your little protective area. Even within the house, I had a place I didn't want to leave. I did not want to leave my bedroom. I called my bed my island, and I wanted to stay on my island because on my island I didn't have to deal with anything. And yet, that was not true. That was not true because Chelsea needed me, Mom needed me, Tracy needed me to help out with Mom. I had friends that called me and, wanted to talk to me about issues, and I felt like I couldn't say no to any of those people, no matter how tired I was, until the point where I just couldn't say yes anymore. And I don't think anyone knew how bad it got. I don't think anyone knew how close I was to just giving up and going away. That just seemed like such a relief. I have come to the conclusion that people who attempt suicide or commit suicide don't want to die so much as they just want to rest. They want to get away from everything and just rest. They're exhausted. Being hopeless, being despondent is tiring. It doesn't sound like it should be. Lord knows we're not doing anything terribly active physically, but it is incredibly exhausting to not like yourself or to hate yourself. I found myself saying to myself, I hate myself. I hate my life, which didn't include Chelsea or Bill or my family or my friends. It just, I hated that I couldn't deal with life. So I just wanted to stop. I just wanted to rest. So yeah, 2014 was a very, very precarious time for me because that was as close as I've ever come. Quitting school for a semester helped. Graduating helped greatly. When I went back to school, I had another 2 semesters after that, and that feeling of accomplishment was wonderful. And I am so thankful to God and my family and my friends for helping me get to that point. That is one of the things I am most proud of, is getting my master's. I had another brief episode in 2017, and it was right after my mom died, I was exhausted. My sister was exhausted. Chelsea was struggling with some OCD issues. I was the executor of Mom's estate, and I was trying to get all of her ducks in a row. You'd be amazed how difficult it is to get the IRS to classify someone as dead. It's astounding. But I had to do a lot of, I was working with that, and it just seemed like there was something all the time. And I saw the doctor, and we changed my medication dosage, and I saw a therapist, and things were going pretty well. It is rare for me to have an episode that soon after 2014, and it's rare for me to be having one now. And I think that there are probably some hormonal issues that are dealing with that, since I'm in that change of life menopause thing. Yay! There is evidence to support that women who deal with depression will struggle more so during this time. And so I think that probably has some to do with it. But I am not in a very bad place right now, but I'm seeing it. I don't want to go anywhere. In fact, I haven't really wanted to go anywhere since 2014. I told Bill that 2014 kind of broke me as far as wanting to go places. I really have to make myself get out of the house, but I really don't want to go anywhere now. And I'm not sleeping well. That's one of the first signs for me, is no sleep, and then that goes to sleeping all the time. I'm also really, really wanting to eat, craving junk food. That's another sign, and that will flip to not eating at all eventually. So I'm starting to see signs that that things are starting to get rough again. And so I guess all of this is to say to you that be mindful of some of the symptoms, and I'm going to, lay them out for you. Disinterest in things that used to interest you. I haven't played the piano in forever. That's unheard of for me. I haven't wanted to. I don't know. There are a lot of things that I would normally want to do. Like, I don't want to go to I have really no desire to go to Blackbird, or go anywhere for that matter. I love it when people come here to visit me, but I really don't want to go anywhere. So being not interested in things that you would normally find pleasurable is a sign. Sleep disturbances are a sign, either not sleeping or sleeping too much, or one might turn into the other like it does with me. Appetite changes, eating everything in sight or not eating anything at all. And again, like I said, with me it starts with everything in sight, flips over to nothing at all. These are things to look for. Now, when it's not that this isn't serious, but when it's getting hardcore serious is when you start thinking, I don't know why I'm here. Everyone would be better off without me. It's too much. I can't go on. These are the precursor to suicidal thoughts. These are the precursors to thinking how you would do it, making plans, attempts. If you start having those thoughts, please, please, please get help. It's not going to get better. Please get help. Also, don't let medication be a stigma to you. Don't listen to these people who say that nobody needs medication. They just need to have a positive attitude. They need to work out. They need to, those are all good things. But sometimes you just need a little help in the serotonin and the norepinephrine department. And so don't let people make that be something that you'd be ashamed of. If you were diabetic, you wouldn't be ashamed of taking insulin. If you had cancer, you wouldn't be ashamed of taking the treatment you needed to treat that. This is as much a physical issue as it is a mental issue. And if your doctor recommends medication, take it. Just take it. As a guy on Saturday Night Live, I can't think of his name now. Pete Davidson, yeah. He said there ain't no shame in the medication game. And there's not. If it helps you, take it. If you had a headache, you'd take an aspirin. Is medication a panacea? No, of course not. There is no perfect medication. There is no perfect, we're not going to be perfect till we get to heaven. But it can help. It's a tool. It's a tool that can be used with other tools like therapy and, mindfulness and relaxation and meditation. And there are lots of things that can help. I do not want to leave this mortal coil. I do not want to let it get bad enough that I even think about that. I found myself saying to myself a few days ago, I hate myself. That's a bad statement to make. I mean, it really is. That's a precursor to worse statements. And that made me approach Bill and talk to Bill. And I think Bill was already seeing some signs. He's pretty good at spotting them by now. And so I called and made an appointment with the doctor. And I'm going to go see her. We're going to talk about what needs to happen. I'm currently on the maximum dosage of the antidepressant that I'm on, so I'm probably going to need to change. Thankfully, I'll already have some medication in my system, and it won't take forever for the new medication to work. But yeah, this is a chronic disorder. It's like any other chronic disorder. It flares. And I should know from having fibro what flares are. And when you have a flare, you treat a flare. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm going to treat this flare. In the meantime, as with any other person who is trying to treat a major depressive episode, it's, might get worse before it gets better. I don't expect me to be going out every day. I will be snarky and funny on Facebook because I think that's what's expected of me. But may not be feeling that way inside. May not want to talk on the phone. May not want to have a lot of communication with people. I tend to withdraw. That's not a good thing necessarily, but it's kind of the way it is. For one thing, I'm just too exhausted. I'm too exhausted to talk to people sometimes. So don't take it personally if, I don't call you right back or whatever. So I don't know if anybody got anything out of this. I feel like I mostly just talked about myself, but maybe you recognized a little bit of you in this. And if you did, then maybe you were encouraged or prompted to seek help, to talk to a medical professional. And you really need to talk to a medical professional. I'm not down on anybody on essential oils, but no. Your essential oil person, it does not have a medical degree. So, I'm all about some aromatherapy. I love aromatherapy. Aromatherapy does not, I'm sorry, no. Major depressive disorder is dealing with a chemical imbalance in your brain, and it's going to need a little more than some peppermint to take care of that. So, just talk to a medical professional, a medical doctor. Even your therapist is not qualified to talk to you about medicine. So make sure that you see a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, your medical doctor, who may want to refer you to a psychiatrist if they feel like they're in over their head on that. So, yeah. All right, this video has gone on way too long, so I'm going to stop now. But if you have questions or you want to ask or want to know anything more, please feel free to private message me on Facebook or leave me a comment here. This is probably going to be posted to my WordPress blog and probably YouTube. So, feel free to ask me anything you want to there, and I'll respond to you. thank you for listening, guys. This was therapeutic for me, maybe helpful for you. I don't know. Hope you guys are having a decent night. And it's almost time to go watch the Super Bowl. I'm torn. I love an underdog, so Chiefs, but I really would like to see the 49ers get that sixth ring so they can join the club. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good evening. Thanks for listening to me. Take care. Bye-bye.